I had one of the coolest experiences of my life, and it came from one of the most unlikely places. NASCAR. Everybody really likes to dog on NASCAR just because of the simplicity of the sport, going left turn, left turn, left turn. But in reality, it's much like every other racing sport where it's actually very technical. There's a lot of skill that goes behind the works. And it's a lot more complicated than what we see on the surface. Just because we don't want to take the time to figure it out doesn't mean that it's worth dogging on. And this is my inside scoop as to how it went from somebody who has never wanted to go to a NASCAR race before in the first place.
All I'm saying is that if people don't like NASCAR, then how in the world did they make these racetracks so big?
My experience was something that's like once in a lifetime. Very few people are going to be able to do the things that we did on our trip, merely because we were part of the ownership group. So because of that, we were able to do things that nobody else would be able to do. No matter where you're sitting throughout the entire stadium, it's electrifying. It's heart pumping, adrenaline rushing, and the experience itself is awesome.
They're only practicing, just running and warming up, and I have to say, I wasn't expecting it, but this is awesome.
The richest athlete in history was a NASCAR driver, but he only had 4 horsepower, and it was in a little place overseas. So not really NASCAR, but pretty much the exact same concept. And my great grandpa was a professional jockey. So I know for a fact that unless you have somebody in the race that you're rooting for or somebody that you're rooting against, racing sports aren't all that enjoyable.
Foreverlong's driver is Jeffrey Earnhardt, Dale Earnhardt's grandson. Winning good, Jeffrey.
Everybody just looks at cars and horses and things running around a track, and they may look like they're extremely skillful, but that's as far as it goes for us. We just merely enjoy it because of how it looks with all the twists and turns and oohs and ahs, but it's a million times more enjoyable once you have somebody in the race and once you actually understand what you're rooting for.
All I'm doing is thinking of the movie Cars, but don't tell anybody that.
Even if it's just a crash, NASCAR is still really enjoyable to watch. You just have to be able to say, that one, I want that one to win. And depending on your research, depending on your gut instinct, depending on if you like the color or not, it will tell you whether or not you want to be for or against that person. And because of that instinctive decision or researched decision, it will make your experience so much more enjoyable.
That thing, the steering wheel breaks, you just pull it out, throw it, grab the next one. Keep going. Like, oh, sorry, boys, you didn't do another one. So what are your first impressions, guys?
Hey, this is about to be my sport, baby. Catch me in 5 years, I'll be out here on the track. Honestly, I love this. I just like how it looks like a real car, but it's not a real car. It's not a real car. It's got headlights, it's got everything. No, I've never been, so it's cool. This is great. Definitely a great first time. This is great. For a first experience, G-Force, this is the way to go. Flex seal, I love it.
There are some admirable traits about the whole experience, like there are no breaks, there's no commercial breaks, there's no stops, it's just a continuous race around the track for 200 plus laps. And that in and of itself is really cool. And the way that I tried to explain it is, rather than like a normal sport where it's just one team versus one team, imagine an entire week worth of fantasy football and smash it into 2 hours of high intensity racing with the potential of crashing, the potential of overpassing. The sky's the limit. And that's what's so cool about it, is the fact that anything could happen.
This one's ours.
As we have got just a handful of cars left. This is the 33rd car qualifying.
Now, personally, I wouldn't consider myself into NASCAR, but I'm definitely not looking at it negatively. I think it's actually really cool for what it is, and considering the fact that it has tens of millions of viewers and people who love it, there's nothing that we could say about it that says that it stinks or that it's bad. It's a race, and it should be regarded as just another sport, just as much as any other racing sport. And it's fine. NASCAR doesn't have to be your thing, but it's not any less superior when it comes to all these other races, because in reality, it's the exact same thing, just which one goes across the finish line first. Whether you like NASCAR or not is not that you think NASCAR is dumb. It's that you haven't found the type of racing that you enjoy most. And the reason for NASCAR is because it makes it an experience. Because with Formula One racing, Baja racing, and all these outdoor racings and stuff like that, it's over a long distance and sometimes an even longer period of time. So it's not viewer friendly as far as in person. If you're looking for an experience and something fun to do, NASCAR is the kind of race that you want to go to, because you can see the car 24/7 all the way around the track. You can see who's doing what's going where, crashes, all that stuff. When with other races, you have to stare at a screen for the rest of the time, so you might as well stay home or watch as they just merely pass the finish line. With all this being said, it actually was an amazing experience, and it was really cool to see all the inner workings of how everything worked, what things were doing, how things were going about, And in reality, I thought it was really fun for never having shown or had interest in NASCAR in the first place. I too didn't necessarily want to watch NASCAR, but the moment that you have somebody or something that you're rooting for, it's a million times more enjoyable. So don't dog on it. You can dislike it, but be open to liking a different style of racing. Doesn't have to be NASCAR, it can just be any kind of racing. There are so many different kinds of racing that you're bound to find one that you really enjoy, and NASCAR might be one of them. The experience alone is worth trying and worth doing, so maybe do a little research, maybe look around, maybe even choose your favorite color, pick a name out of a hat, anything. If you go to a race, you'll have a fun time. And with that, later.